And so says she.
Yes. So we at the moment do not have any live viewers, but we just turned on the live button, so we can give it a moment just to see if anybody comes on. But if not, the show won't change. So where did I put my kazoo? Oh, here we are. There we are. We're all kazooed up. Okay. Cloud recording on. I'm paying for it. I might as well have it. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Set. And go. This is the Android Buffet Podcast, episode number 502, recorded Thursday, August 20th, 2020, in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Dum, dum, dum.
We have a live viewer. I'm just
What?
mentioning this now for those of you who are listening after the fact. Remember, we now have the capacity to have live viewers because we have engaged the services of a streaming network. So our one live viewer this week has said howdy. Just putting that out there. Howdy back.
All right.
So this is episode 502, and I forgot it's Thursday. What happened to
It is
Wednesday?
Thursday.
What happened to Wednesday, Jerry?
I ended up working Wednesday. And you know what I'm going to do when we're done here?
Work?
Yep, I'm going to work.
Me too. But I took tomorrow off so I wouldn't work, so I assume I'll only work half as much on the day that I'm not supposed to be working at all. So,
Huh.
but it's been another week. I went back to my apartment, so I drove on Tuesday night. I drove the 2 hours down to New York City. I got the mail. I got my packages and all of the stuff that it was piling up there. And then Wednesday night, I turned around and drove back. So I did a very brief visit. And I have all of my additional supplies. My Wyze outdoor cam came. I ordered one of those.
Yay.
I'd like to say that I can give you an opinion of how the Wyze outdoor cam works, except for the fact that when did I have time to actually play with it yet? Maybe that's what I'll do on the day that I probably won't be working. I'll play with the Wyze outdoor cam. Also, I ordered an Odroid Go Advance. So a while back, I mentioned that I had ordered the Odroid Go, which is like a Game Boy style device that you assemble and run emulator games on.
Right.
My niece liked it a lot, so I gave it to her. So I ordered the successor to that to build.
Cool.
Why not? We all need hobbies. So also have not built that because again, been busy. On another positive note, one of my home automation alerts actually worked. The water sensor. Yes. The problem is that the water was cleaned up, but the water sensor was damp for like 12 hours afterwards and kept telling me over and over again it's still wet in there. But I consider that a success because as long as it's wet, it means I should know about it. The fact that I'd already
Yes.
cleaned it up, but the sensor just took a while to dry off because it was so wet, was problematic. Also, have you looked at the Android Buffet website recently? I made some tweaks.
I have not.
Oh, you should look. I put in, courtesy of the plugin that handles the podcasting on the site, I put in this whole lovely
Ooh.
subscribe to podcast sidebar.
Mm-hmm. I see it. It's pretty. Nice colors.
Yes, I can't take credit, but when I saw it in there, I said, "Why don't I do that?" And it offers, Google a link to Google Podcasts, TuneIn, subscribe via Android, Stitcher, RSS, and I'd add. I had to take off, even though there was originally a Apple iTunes thing. Just to be fair, I took it off because you can't adjust the order, and Apple iTunes came first, which offended me.
I understand.
Well, again, it's an Android themed podcast. I didn't want Apple to be the first choice, and they do not give you a choice on that. I'm thinking of writing them opening an issue and saying, "Let me choose my own order."
Yeah, but is it just an alphabetical order? No, it's not an alphabetical order.
No, no, I'm sure there seems to be some
Hmm.
sort of editorializing here, but it seemed like if they're just generating these, and I looked at the code, they should be able to give me a way to actually choose it. If I could find a place to open an issue, they don't seem to have a place for that so easily. They do say in the WordPress plugin support thing that you can should go somewhere else where it redirects to a dead link. So it may just be that I haven't found the right place yet. But again, I think it looks nice. Also, I did send you a message, Jerry, because it looks like your bio on the site is in need of some serious updating.
No, I'm still the same Jerry I've always been,
Are you sure of that?
mostly.
No, I meant, are you sure that the description of, according to this, you own an HTC Evo 4G LTE and you like to talk about it?
Oh,
Okay. Have you started developing Android apps again?
nope.
Okay. Are you the
Yeah,
host?
all right.
Are,
I'll send you a snippet.
are you the host of an upcoming Bitcoin podcast?
I was.
Yeah, but it's not upcoming anymore. It's you were the host of a. Also, the pictures that you provided at the time still has hair, and you have told me that that is no longer the case.
Yeah, but that's fine.
No, I'm saying
I'll have hair. I'll have hair eventually. It's fine.
I'm just saying that when I read the page, I realized that it may need some tweaking. So I figured
All right.
at your
I'll give you a
convenience.
little blurb.
Well, we want to make
I
sure
will.
when people say, "I want to know about Jerry
Okay,
Jones."
okay. I got you.
Okay. So, in other news, the new logo continues to iterate. I forget if I
Ooh,
said
iterate.
yes. I forget if I said on the air that there will be some exciting changes without there being exciting changes. So the logo will look the same but different. It is being updated to reflect the current Jerry rather than the artist formerly known as Jerry. That's you.
Um, me.
So that's coming. There are a few other things. There was actually a repair made because in the original logo I'm shown without glasses. However, I have worn glasses continuously since what, 5th grade? So I never got into
I don't know. Could have been fourth grade.
No, before that I just needed them for distance, but that's when they got bad enough that I was wearing them full time. But either way, they do not show here, and I never could get into contacts. I tried a few
That's
times.
because you're not supposed to get into contacts. Contacts are supposed to get into you.
I never enjoyed them. I remember one time I tried contacts for 2 weeks and not a single person noticed that I wasn't wearing glasses. So I said, why am I going through all of this annoyance and irritation if it's a cosmetic thing? So,
Okay. Glasses have other downsides that
yeah,
contacts alleviate.
peripheral vision is one of them.
Peripheral vision. Them not fogging up when you go out into the heat
Well, I would have
is
said
another.
I would have said not fogging up when you go outside with your mask, which has been happening to me.
Ah, see, contacts will fix that.
Yeah, but then I'd have to go get contacts again, and that would involve me going somewhere, and I go very few places. So we have some interesting things on the show notes this week. Again, for those of you who aren't enjoying the new and exciting live stream, the show notes appear on the live stream as we are talking about them. So the first thing on the show notes is actually the fact that I updated the site with new links. Check.
Yay!
Yes. So moving along, Android 11 will only allow pre-installed camera apps to respond to the image, video, and capture intents. So this would be if you are inside an app and it gives you a button to capture an image. So let's say you are in a messaging app and you want to take a picture and share it in that app. It will now not give you the option to choose an app. It will only let you have use pre-installed apps. So those system apps.
Which makes one wonder, why would it offer you any option? Just open the camera app.
Well,
Now, it's also worth noting that this does not preclude you from installing third-party camera apps.
it
It's
just
just that they will not be available via a quick launch type
yeah.
action
Now if
thing.
but they say this is a privacy and security issue. Now, to be honest, what I would say would make more sense is for you to have to register a default camera app, whichever one it is. You wouldn't be able to choose on the fly, but you would have to go into system settings and say, this is my camera app. Because otherwise you are,
No, man, nobody's going to do that.
I'm just saying that that's an alternative. Right now, this is back to the tyranny of the default. They have made it so that you cannot select anything but the camera app that is pre-installed on the phone. Therefore, that is what people will use, regardless of whether or not they might otherwise use something else.
Yep.
And again, I'm not saying I'm going to use something else. I think the Google camera app, which I'm using, is very nice. I'm just saying that I like choice. I worry about a company moving towards less choice and saying that it is a security measure. Because there are ways to address this issue that still allow the choice and are not inconvenient. If you have any of the Nest audio or video devices, such as the Nest Home Mini, formerly the Google Home Mini, you can now do multi-room audio control.
What?
So this is a Sonos type replacement, so you would be able to move music from one room to another, experience stereo sound, so you can have two Nest Minis for room filling sound and left and right channel separation.
No. That's crazy talk.
Now, what they haven't said is if other assistant devices will be coming in the near future. They say that they will be coming. It will start rolling out to all Nest Hub, Nest Hub Max, and other compatible assistant-enabled smart displays, and it will be coming to the Home app later this fall. But it doesn't say the other compatible displays if everything is there. So I haven't actually had a chance to check because I do have some devices. I have a home Mini and a Lenovo Smart Display in here. So the Home Mini is in the adjoining room, and I would be able to walk between rooms and listen to music, which sounds nice. I wouldn't have paid the Sonos prices for it, not because of any reason that I didn't need that. But again, if I can do it with this, why not?
Yep.
May change my entire conception. If you are a user of Wear OS, and I am happy to say that my Wear OS using has returned because last time I went to my apartment, I left my watch there. I had to wait 2 weeks until I went around to going back to get my watch back. So I am now watched again.
It.
Well, as I've said before, I use my watch a lot when I'm going about my daily business outside of the house. And since my daily business, like you, is now inside the house and my outside activities are somewhat curtailed, my watch usage has fallen.
Mm-hmm.
But Wear OS is apparently getting improvements. So there's going to be a big fall update, which will apparently add LTE support, allow easier management of controls between different watch modes and workouts, and boost CPU core speeds by 20%. Apparently they're also going to improve the pairing process and the onboarding process.
One can hope.
So
Bluetooth
again,
pairing always sucks.
well, you see, here's the thing. When I was experimenting, I got one of the Wise bands when they were selling them cheap just to try out.
Sure.
And I had that and I had the watch paired, and it was sort of this, okay, now I have two constantly connected Bluetooth devices, and I don't really need them at the same time. But it was a nice experience. By the way, I do recommend the Wise Band if you want an inexpensive band thing that has the time on it, and also is inexpensive enough that you could pretty much throw it against a wall, break it, and not feel that guilty about it.
How long's the battery last on it?
I didn't do field testing, but it does apparently last for at least over a day. I can only tell you that after I tried it out for about half a day, I left it on, not charging on a counter, and without any usage, it took like 2 more days to actually completely discharge. But if it was actually going places and being used, it would be different. Also, it has Amazon integration, and I prefer the other type of integration.
Sure. Don't we all?
Yeah, well, it may come. Wise is always trying new things. Moving along, let's see here. It is the 4th birthday of Google Duo. And apparently there is some doubt that Google Duo may not have a 5th birthday.
Well, sure, because it's Google.
Yeah, so Google may replace Duo with Meet. And I wouldn't.
I don't think Duo's really actually gotten any traction.
Well, I don't know. I use Duo. I use it on the smart displays. So again, the thing is, originally Duo was meant to be sort of the video telephone replacement, whereas Meet was more of a group product. But those things have somewhat converged.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, the difference is sort of a user interface conception, and they could have two things on the same network without still have that conception. So with Duo, I don't, even though there's the concept of group calling that came in later, I call a person. Whereas with Meet, it's more, up until recently when they had sort of the instant Meet idea, it was more that I have to set up a meeting and then invite people to it. So I sort of like the casual, I just want to talk to this one person, or I just want to conference in these two people. So if what would have made more sense to me would have been to use the same underlying infrastructure, but have slightly different interfaces for it, where you can have sort of the group interface where you can schedule meetings and do that. They're essentially the same network, which means you can seamlessly work between them. But one is geared has the interface for personal. So
I think the main difference comes into for calling somebody.
Yeah.
There is the idea that communication is initiated to you. Whereas for the meetings, you initiate the communication at all times. Even if you're starting just an impromptu one-on-one with somebody else, you start a meeting and then you give them a link to it. But they still go somewhere. But for Duo, it allows for an incoming meeting, right? I think that's the major difference.
Yeah, and as I said, that's what I'm interested in having a different interface for. Again, they could have it on the same network, they could have it work the same way, and they could have it seamless. But I sort of like the idea of the telephone style of communication. And again, I don't do enough video calls with other people, but that's because I'm not a very social person. I'm not antisocial, just I am who I am. So I will just wait for Duet, the merge of Duo and Meet, where hopefully there will be some things. Now, I was reading the article that I'm citing from 9 to 5 Google, and they're saying that Duo was actually a successful product.
Really?
They're saying it was. And again, if you look at the difference between an enterprise product and a consumer product. And I'm also a little annoyed now that their Meet is being sandwiched into Gmail. I'm not sure if you've noticed this, that suddenly there's
I have.
I don't want to start a
buttons.
meeting. It's email. Why do I want to start a meeting with people? If you're saying I want to talk to somebody, fine, but it's as if they don't understand what my desire as a personal account is, as opposed to my desire as a business account.
You don't understand that. I just don't care to be reachable all the time. Email and WhatsApp and SMS and phones and there's enough friggin' ways to get a hold of me. I don't need it popping up in my friggin' Gmail account. But that's just me. I also.
Well, again, I appreciate choice. If they want to say, okay, you want to have like a widget in the side that allows you to pop up this, but you can turn it off, fine. But the fact that they've decided, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and everybody's going to love it. Well, this is good.
Yeah, because that happens.
Yeah.
Never.
Well, it's sort of the thing where they seem to be realizing that Zoom is a big thing now, and they have to compete with that, and then there are other companies competing. So they've done a really good job on Meet. However, they seem to have decided that everybody wants it, which is not necessarily the case. For example,
Meet does have a feature that is really cool that nobody else has.
the transcribing.
Yeah.
I like that. We tried it. And
Teams.
there were
Microsoft Teams has a similar feature, but it's just not near as the transcription is just not nearly as accurate as.
I spend my company has transitioned to Teams, and I've said before, I spend a large percentage of my day being annoyed that it crashes on me all the time.
Huh. But you're also on Linux, right?
Not for work.
Ah.
They don't give me that choice. If they said that I could if they said that I could work on Linux on my work computer, I'd be thrilled. I'm running a state of the art Windows 7 computer from 2016.
Wow.
Yes, it's the same laptop that I have dragged all around the world for the company. So possibly the reason it's crashing is that no one has serviced it in 4 years. But there's nobody in our IT department really. They're on reduced staff also, so I'm not going to ask them unless the things are falling down because they have enough to do. So moving along, Google Maps has changed their tiling. So map servers use tiles, which are essentially little pieces of map that can be stitched together to form the map that you're looking at. So apparently they've upgraded their tiles, offering more details and a better rendering in their standard view. So you will see more.
We're still using the S2 addressing scheme.
I'm not sure. I saw the article and I was looking at it. I've never used this tile set. I do actually host a tile server.
Really?
Well, it's a tile caching server, so it's not actually alive. So OpenStreetMap does have their own tile server, so I actually have something that when I request a tile, it goes through this cache and it stores the tiles that I use the most for a period of time. So it's not... if I tried to store the entire OpenStreetMap tile server, I think that's like 40 gigabytes of data.
Okay, but 40 gigabytes is not a lot.
Well, if you're trying to do it on, let's say, a VPS, it's a pain in the neck. I once looked into trying to host that and trying to host Neminitim, which is the reverse geolocation lookup. And just the sheer amount of data that you'd have to have on a VPS, that the cost wouldn't be worth it for the small amount of mapping and reverse lookups that I do. So my solution was to just build it into caching. So I have an Nginx server. We'll get a little technical on this now. That as things requests come through, it caches those requests in line with the terms of service agreement for the individual site. Because I don't want to violate their terms of service, so I can't cache Google stuff because Google does actually expressly forbid doing that.
And how does Nginx know that?
Because it reaches out to the other site. So there's a little bit of code there that this caching server, the things using it don't know that what they're reaching out to. The small bit of code that I wrote in PHP does that. So the PHP code takes the incoming query and then reformats the query for the correct server based on the query string. Not that much of a code.
Sounds interesting and useful.
No, it's simple. And then some of the code I stole from somebody else. Liberated. It hadn't been updated in years, so I did find some code that did some of the stitching calculations. And overlays the little attribution thing in the corner.
Huh.
I do attribution. It would be unfair if I didn't. Anyway, so I'm just looking at the pictures on the screen of the new map. It does look nice. I think they did a nice job. It's no OpenStreetMap, but you can't have everything.
OpenStreetMap in the Street View is really nice.
Yeah. The thing is that one time when I was using the Google API, one time I made a mistake and ended up generating an $80 bill for myself.
Wow.
Well, again, I had something pinging an API every 2 seconds. Why do you think I built a caching server? Even though you don't pay for OpenStreetMap, I feel like if they're giving me something for free, I shouldn't abuse it. So, if you are a user of Facebook products, apparently they've started the merger of Instagram and Messenger chats. Not much to say about that. Just,
Yeah, I know.
if you use Telegraph, so we're talking about all these messaging services because you were just saying you didn't want to be reached on 50 different places. If you are a Telegraph user, they now support video calls and chat bubbles.
Telegraph or Telegram?
Which one did I say? I always mix up. Did I say telegraph? Excuse me, telegram. That's
Okay.
me. I don't know why I keep making that mistake. That's like the 5th time I've written telegraph on my notes when I meant to write telegram. Is there a product called Telegraph?
There is, but it's like 200 years old.
No, I meant is there like a software project called Telegraph?
I'm sure there is.
I'm sure there is too.
I mean,
I'm just saying, whenever I mean to write telegram, I write telegraph. It's like one member of my family who keeps telling me that they're going to send me a message on Hangups.
I like that name. That's a good name for it.
Yep. But I actually use, I've mentioned this Telegram with Home Assistant because they have a very good integration there, so I can get myself sent alert messages. It worked a lot better than some of the other alternatives. So that water sensor was sending me messages through a Telegram bot every 5 minutes for 12 hours straight. I think it finally dried up. But anyway, I have to figure. One of the reasons why I did that is the feature I haven't implemented yet would be the two-way conversation where Telegram, the bot from Home Assistant could ask you a question. You could and give you a few different choices of answers. You could answer back, and that would cause your Home Assistant instance to do something. I thought that was a useful feature.
Sure.
Yep. So back to Google Meet. It's now available on Chromecast. Do you remember me saying I wanted this a long time ago? Not Google Meet. I said it for something else. But do you remember me saying how I should be able to, if I'm doing some sort of video conferencing or audio, I should be able to have the video up on a screen using a Chromecast and then still use my microphone and camera from a computer? Apparently you can do that. Google Meet is now available for this. So apparently I am not the only person who said, why am I using my little screen to see other people? Why can't I use my big screen?
Right.
As I said, somebody other than me thought that this was a good idea and actually did it.
Cool.
And apparently, if you are not a user of Meet, there is an alternative because apparently soon Google Assistant smart displays will be able to join Zoom calls.
Wow. Makes sense.
Well, I appreciate this because it could have been that the people at Google said we're not going to integrate anything but our own platform. I appreciate that they decided that they would integrate other platforms. I assume Zoom will not be the only one they integrate. Just Zoom is probably the most popular. But I would enjoy this. I do not always want to, to set up the whole full setup whenever I want to have one of these conference calls. Maybe I just want to have a conversation on a little smart display.
Sure.
And I'm probably not the only one. And
Probably not.
Well, also, I think that moves Zoom, not that Zoom is not a consumer product, but I think it moves more into that casual duo-like conversation that I think is not getting quite as much attention.
I think it helps take over for that Facebook video thing.
Yeah. Well, what, Portal? That thing?
I think so.
Well, that's the thing. We're still back on the duo thing. That I think that if you realize that people are not going to get together as much because of the current pandemic, but they don't want to schedule a Zoom room and decide, okay, well, we're going to have a room at this time, or we're going to have an instant room, and here's the link. They want to just click something and say, I want to talk to this person. And I think that even Zoom is going to have to move in that direction and say, in addition to the meeting product, we're going to have something that's just I want to talk to my friend Jerry.
Yep.
I don't need a meeting. I just want to click the button and say, call Jerry, and if he accepts, set up a meeting. And that's all interface. That's not... The technology is still the same. Anyway, moving along, if Tasker, apparently the developer is going off on vacation, but beforehand showed off a new feature where you can put a button that can do something in Tasker into the power menu integration. So this is that new thing where when you press the power button, you get a menu of things like your Google Home configuration.
Yes.
So
which I'm certain will absolutely not be abused.
I believe you're being sarcastic, but I just want to confirm it. Because if I said that, I'm saying if I said that, I would be sarcastic.
Yes, I was being sarcastic.
Okay. So, but it looks good. If you actually look at the link there for it, they put on a little demo where it will, and the experimental plugin contains a Tasker button, which can be customized to trigger any task. And again, looks interesting. Speaking of the power menu, if you use TinyCam, have you ever used TinyCam, Jerry?
I have not. I tried once, but
yeah. So, TinyCam, you can again add controls to access your cameras. And again, I think that's actually what the feature seems to be for.
Yep.
So I did find some other news. If you are a fan of the classic movie Blazing Saddles and you want to watch it on HBO Max, there is now a 3-minute disclaimer.
3 minutes.
Well, it is a disclaimer, and that puts it into historical context, apparently by one of the TCM hosts who probably have something interesting to say. Those guys are always dropping little factoids. But either way, 3 minutes seems more like an extra than a disclaimer. Now, admittedly, have you seen... I assume you've seen Blazing Saddles.
Actually, no.
You've never seen Blazing Saddles?
Nope.
Not a Mel Brooks fan?
Not really.
Okay. I happen to like Mel Brooks. Admittedly, I won't say that it is my favorite Mel Brooks movie, but it has its moments. And the movie, again, in context, is actually, to some degree, not being racist so much as portraying people who are racist as idiots. But again, it is a satire, so it portrays a lot of people as idiots. But that's neither here nor there.
I'm just saddened that we have to explain that, hey, this movie was made in a different time, so it may not live up to your moral standards. Hey, it's a joke.
Yeah, I have slightly different ways of wondering. And it's actually for a completely different reason. So when I used to buy movies in actual physical media, which I still do sometimes, and because the reason I would buy it rather than renting it on one of these streaming services once they started to come out was that I would get extras and I would get commentary and I would get interesting things that I wouldn't get just by watching the movie on a streaming service.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd rather have. If they're saying, well, we want to make sure that this can be shown in context, why isn't there an extra where I could see about this context? Why is it's a disclaimer? So if they wanted to add a 3-minute introduction to Blazing Saddles that you could watch to explain Blazing Saddles to you, why not? That would be value-added content. If they wanted to start adding, okay, well, you can watch the movie with these optional extras that we've created where some people discuss the movie, why not? I might gain a new appreciation of a movie that I enjoy. But if it's just we feel like we have to put this thing here to explain to people who've never seen it, I don't really think
that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that seems like a lot of work where you could be doing it in a way that would also appeal to people who had seen it. And when I say appeal, explain this and actually add some context to a conversation, actually add some interesting facts about the movie. For example, did you know that Richard Pryor was credited as a writer on Blazing Saddles, despite the fact that he was not chosen to play the African American lead? Even though there were...
Nope.
I did know that, actually. Do you know why I knew that? Because I've seen the movie. Also, I own the Mel Brooks collection on Blu-ray, so that's... I don't have to watch it on HBO Max. But the point is, I like extras. That might be something I might be interested in. So why not frame it that way and give value added to people who have seen the movie in addition to value added to people who haven't? But again, I understand. It's the world we live in. I'm more upset about those crows in Dumbo. They don't add anything to the movie. Moving along. Apparently, Spectrum can now charge online video sites for network connections. So these are network interconnects. And they no longer have to provide basic broadband to economically disadvantaged groups because apparently the FCC has declined to defend the conditions of the Spectrum merger. And the courts have decided that if the other party involved will not even bother to show up and defend it, that they will allow Spectrum to do whatever they want.
Cool.
Yay.
Yep.
The free market has spoken.
Hey, if they don't care, if they don't care, then the courts don't care.
I care.
Did you show up?
No one asked me to. If they came and said, would you come and defend providing basic broadband to economically disadvantaged group because the FCC has decided they do not want to defend that, I would have been happy to show up, and I'm sure other people would have also. Moving along,
Wow.
Apple will be apparently enforcing a 1-year limit on SSL certificate lifetimes beginning on September 1st, and apparently Mozilla and Google will follow.
I don't actually have a problem with this, but
people who have bought 5 or 10 year certificates do. However, I only use Let's Encrypt, and they make me renew it every 90 days, so it doesn't make a difference to me.
yeah, but it's an automatic process, so you don't even notice.
Yeah, well, that was sort of the goal. I think a lot of this was to say, okay, well, we'll have a shorter certificate life because we will automate the renewal process. But not every company invested in automating the renewal process. So,
And some companies need certificates that are more, well, they actually verify identity, not just,
Yeah.
control.
But here's the question I would ask you. Let's say that you once again buy a 5-year certificate, and what it is that every year the certificate will be renewed, but after the 5th year you'll have to re-verify some additional things. It doesn't
I
say
expect that's what will happen.
No, it doesn't say that you have to do the same level of scrutiny every year. It just says that that the certificates will expire after a year. So how the companies decide, okay, well, you're buying a 5-year certificate, we're going to verify all this, but we're going to automatically renew it every year just to protect your own security. The advantage of 1-year limit on certificate lifetimes is, again, a security advantage. Admittedly, it's a clerical annoyance. There is some annoyance that Apple has sort of unilaterally decided this and that other companies are following them rather than there being some sort of consensus before they made that decision. But
You know how I feel about that.
consensus? Or that somebody has to be the person to put down the hammer.
No, the company is totally cool to make their own decisions. If the market follows or not, then that will indicate whether it was a good decision or not. Although I don't know if that philosophy really works in an era of megacorps like Walmart and Amazon and Apple.
It would be nice if it was. We tried. If the thing was, we tried to get some consensus on this, but nobody wanted to talk about it, so we just did our own thing. I could get that, but a lot of the time we just did our own thing. We didn't bother trying to talk to anybody else. We just made the decision and expected everybody to follow us. So it's sort of the difference between, you tried for consensus, it didn't work out, so you did your own thing as opposed to you ignored it. But anyway.
Well, to be fair, everybody is following them.
Yeah, it just we're sort of back to something that I see entirely too much lately. The world seems to lack boundaries. It seems like everybody is just doing their own thing without thinking of other people around them. And maybe it's just me feeling utterly cynical lately with the way the world is going, but it's just disappointing. I try to live my life not always doing what everybody wants, but trying to be aware of the people around me and trying not to infringe on what they're up to. And there's certainly plenty of things people do around me that annoy me intensely. But again, moving along, if you are in Indiana, apparently 4 cities in Indiana expect online video providers to pay franchise fees. So this will be Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, etc. And this will be, of course, in the Indiana Commercial Court in Marion County. So apparently these companies will have to pay cable franchise fees established in the Video Service Franchises Act, which requires payment of 5% of gross revenue in each city. So the cities are claiming that Netflix and other providers use public rights of way simply by offering video streaming services over the internet, which is, in my opinion, ridiculous.
Yeah, that's dumb.
No, if you want to impose a sales tax, because they are conducting sales business in a municipality, you can do that. I don't think that there's anything that you could realistically do about that type of interpretation. But they're saying that it's a franchise fee because they essentially are using the right of way.
But they're not. No.
They're not. Well, satellite companies don't pay franchise fees because they're not actually using infrastructure. Cable and telecommunications company pay franchise fees because, again, they are using utility poles and other public rights of way to string their wiring.
Yep. Which also implies that if the cable company was to go away, then those rights of ways would be available for others to use. But if Netflix goes away, that has absolutely zero effect on anybody else's ability to use it. And if they stay there, it doesn't stop anybody else from using it. So yeah, I'm with you. It's not a limited resource.
Yeah. But apparently they are pointing to the broad definition of video service in the Act, which defines video service as the transmission to subscribers of video programming and other programming service through facilities located in part in a public right-of-way without regard to the technology used to deliver the video programming or other programming service.
I mean, according to the letter of the law, it does in fact seem legit that it would apply to them.
Well, again, it's through facilities located in part in a public right-of-way, but now you're double dipping because the person who's providing the services through the public right-of-way happens to be another company. Netflix is not providing it through the facilities that they operate on through a public right-of-way. They are providing it through another company. As in the cable provider who you're already charging a franchise fee to. So there are other ways. If the issue is that they feel that these companies should pay, there are other laws that they could use to apply it.
No, that's not. The issue is that they want more revenue.
Yes, but what I'm saying is if they feel that these companies should be contributing revenue, then they shouldn't be contributing by saying that they are providing video. That, again, that's not the right law. As I said, it is a sale conducted within the county or within the municipality. You could tax that. That is actually an established thing that people do. Admittedly, there are all these arguments about whether or not internet companies should pay sales tax. That's a whole bigger argument. But a lot of them are charging sales tax in certain places. So why can't you say digital services are taxed as a sale? That, again, would be an equitable law.
That's also evil.
I wouldn't agree with it, but what I'm saying is at least that's a justifiable thing, whereas you're saying, okay, you have to pay a franchise to the municipality to sell to people in it, or you should pay a sales tax. There's also, we can get into all sorts of other taxing measures. By the way, I say this as not a tax expert, but I do have a cousin who is a well-regarded tax expert. I could ask his opinion if you'd like. I haven't talked to him in a while. I should call my cousin. But anyway, that aside, I just feel that taxing is a legal authority that the government has. However, you have to apply the right tax to the situation. They are absolutely allowed to charge online video providers for conducting business within the municipality, but it shouldn't be in the terms of a franchise.
Okay.
I'm agreeing Indiana can charge them something. I'm just saying they shouldn't be charging them under this law. They should come up with an appropriate law for the type of business they are. And of course, finally, moving into the continual thing about the stories about the internet and such, Facebook has been sued, apparently claiming that fact-checking against vaccination or anti-vaccination is censorship. So apparently, if you fact-check an organization that says that they are anti-vaccination, then you are censoring them, which you may or may not be doing. However, it is not illegal for Facebook to censor you because it is a private platform.
Yeah. I am not going to get into this conversation. I
wasn't going to talk about whether, the opinion of what's being said. I was only going to mention the fact that technically Facebook has every legal right to say that they don't want something on their platform. And it is not censorship.
Well, it is censorship.
It's not illegal censorship. It doesn't infringe on their First and Fifth Amendment rights.
Well, maybe that's what we'll find out.
Yep.
But it is, in fact, censorship.
Yeah, I'm saying it is not illegal censorship under the law. It is their platform. They're allowed to censor whatever they want on it.
Well, they're being sued. They're not being charged.
Yeah.
So
we'll
see.
Yeah, but they're being sued for violating somebody's First Amendment rights, which is a right that is that is a government right. Companies cannot actually inhibit people's free speech in this case. I'm just saying we're back to an inappropriate exercise of law. So anyway, regardless of what you think,
I don't know. There's some question about public square.
Yeah, but there's the question: is Facebook the public square?
Is Facebook a public square? Is Twitter a public square? Is
Yeah.
YouTube the public square? I think these are. I mean, right now we have no answers to that. And if this brings us even a hint of an answer, I'm all for it.
Yeah. No, I'd like to see more answers. However, I think there already is an answer.
And I wish it would be somebody else that would sue them for this, because I believe the message is going to be the center of the.
Who is suing them? Yeah, but
Yeah.
the thing is, I don't think that the law on this is murky. I think Section 230 is pretty clear about this sort of thing.
All right.
That again, there are one or two exceptions, but again, as long as the company has some sort of policy and it complies with all law enforcement, then it can essentially censor whatever it wants. Now, if the government wants to say that these companies have become public squares, that's a whole different thing. But as of now, the law protects all of these companies from managing their network as long as they're consistent about it, which a lot of them aren't, which is a whole other story also.
Which may be another thing that they're suing them for.
Not being consistent, which, again, that's something you can say. Arbitrary and capricious. That they're not holding to their own standards.
I mean, I kind of disagree with this as a matter of, I don't think Facebook should fact check, because facts they change.
Yeah. Well, no, the simple problem with, and I don't like quoting Mark Zuckerberg, or at least paraphrasing him, because I don't remember exactly what he said. But he was sort of right. It's difficult for these companies. They do not want to be in this position. The problem is when they say something, it turns out badly. When they don't say something, it turns out badly. They're in a really difficult position. So do you want Facebook has groups of people all around the world who are deleting things like, let's say graphic beheadings, to name one that has come up. Acts of violence and really disturbing imagery. You would want well, not everybody, I suppose, but you would expect that most people would want that to be removed. However, then you get into there are other things that are more controversial. So nobody wants to moderate anything. It's just, if you don't moderate, you have a horrible experience. Nobody wants to be on your platform. And if you moderate, people are mad at you because you've made the wrong decision in some people's minds, or you've made the right decision in other people's minds. So at the end, you can't win. So while I'm not a big fan of Facebook, and you've heard me criticize them, I will agree with Mark Zuckerberg that they are in a position that they really don't want to be in. And the same thing for Twitter. They want to promote free speech and let anybody say whatever they want, but they're in this position where there are horrible people on Twitter. There are horrible people on Facebook. And if those horrible people aren't controlled, and I'm not talking about horrible for any reason other than they're out making other people's lives miserable. I'm not talking about the people who have differing views. If they don't manage some of the garbage that shows up on these networks, then nobody will want to be there, and the next company will get all the business. So what do you do? So I'm not saying I always think they made the right decision. I'm just saying that I sympathize with an organization that has what appears to be a nearly impossible problem to solve. And while you've heard me in the past advocate for government action, this is one where I'm actually saying the government should stick to where it is.
Okay.
I'm not saying they shouldn't clarify a few things about it, but they should not change the law that says that these companies should not be held responsible for trying to do something because, again, back to your free market thing, the free market is what they're responding to. I think the clarification that the government should get involved in is how they're required to explain it, what they're doing, and how they're required to be consistent on it.
I think they should either be a platform or be a publisher. I believe part of the problem that Facebook runs into is that they're trying to skirt the line of both.
Yeah, which means they shouldn't be involved in publishing, which means, the same way that a few years ago...
Which means they shouldn't censor. I mean, that's kind of the definition of, are you a
platform or a publisher?
Platform or a publisher is, okay. Do you exert any control over what comes up? And they clearly do. So, therefore, they're a publisher and are not protected from the things that they're...
Yeah, the question is, then you get into, as I said, it's back to this sort of line. Well, then what happens if somebody is on your platform suggesting that they go and blow up a group of people? Do you keep that up?
I think that's not a matter of free speech. That is explicitly illegal.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it once you start going...
I would leave it up. I would leave it up until a competent authority says that needs to come down.
Yeah, what I'm saying is it isn't an easy problem.
No, it's not.
Because you start out with, okay, well, we're going to remove violence. Then what happens when people come back and say, well, no, I was just joking about it? Then you have other people who aren't doing anything, but they are saying hateful things that eventually may lead to... I'm saying it's not an easy decision, and I do not want to be in that position myself.
That's why I like the idea of leave it there until a competent authority says it has to come down.
But then you're back to trusting the government to figure these things out, and
No, I'm putting it in the hands of... I'm putting the matters of criminal determination into the hands of the people who are responsible for such things.
Okay. I'm just saying, I'm going back to the one statement that this is a hard problem I'm happy I don't want to solve.
I think we agree on that.
Okay. I'm going to go to easier problems in my life. What I'll do is, while other people are trying to solve how to make Facebook and Twitter more equitable places, I'll try to solve peace in the Middle East and economic inequality.
Hey, at least Israel and the Emirates are getting along.
Hope it lasts.
Yeah.
Again, regardless of any political leanings that I may or may not have on the subject, peace in the Middle East doesn't seem to be a lasting thing.
Yep.
I hope it happens at some point, but it may not be anytime soon. If it is, I'll be pleased, because I would like to visit the Middle East again and not worry about something happening. Anyway, I think that brings us to the end of our program for this week.
I think it does.
So I think we've settled into this nice routine where we do a nice 9 p.m. show on Thursdays, and we have a live stream, and some people subscribed, by the way. I want to thank all of those people who, regardless of whether they came for the live stream, subscribed, because if we get enough subscriptions, I can get us that Vanity Android Buffet YouTube URL.
Ooh.
I don't care about the advertising monetization. I don't think that that enough people would ever watch a show for us to make any large amount of money.
Right.
Well, again, money is not a bad thing. However, I'm not asking for it. However, at least we can go for the vanity URL and eventually the new logo. By the way, last time that we did the logo, I did make up some logo stuff that I never bothered to send to anybody. This time, I think if I make up any logo-related items, I actually should send them out so that people could enjoy them. We could have a contest. Also, last week, after the recording ended, but before the stream ended, I inserted a secret word into the stream, and not a single person sent a message saying they heard it. So we've confirmed that nobody listened to the recorded version or the live version. So we're going to keep working at it. We're going to keep dedicated to this multi-platform way of doing things until further notice. So I think that that's a good note on which to end the program.
Yep.
I find that when other people come into the room, it's a good time to stop recording. So to those of you who are enjoying the live stream, all one of you, thank you for joining us.
Was cool.
Yeah, for those of you who are listening on the pre-recorded version, we'll see you next week.
Bye, folks. Next week. My wife came in right at the end and startled me. She's like,
Yes.
"You're closed in here." She wants to talk to me. Baby, I'm recording my show.
Yes, the live stream is in there. I heard that there was nothing heard on the podcast. So I'm assuming by that somebody is hearing stuff on the live stream, because we do have Daryl from our previous live episode who's been watching in there. So good night, Daryl. This is a special Daryl message for you.
Good night.
You are currently our favorite Daryl.